And so, I mean, then this is my question to you, and then I'm opening it up because you're at a institution, right? You're at the University of Pittsburgh, which, you know, has perpetuated white supremacists, is systemically racist. You know, it was a couple years ago where they had a building named after the guy who founded gynecology, who did all of these practices on black women and women of color, and like they had to be like forced into changing this, right? So you're at an institution. So like, what benefit? Like how would you, like, here you have a group of people, and particularly we're talking about like white men that are benefiting. You know what I'm saying? You got 81-year-old Mitch McConnell. He gonna die in that seat. He not trying to leave. You know, like, so how would you take a white person that has benefited their whole lives from this system and are multi-billionaires? We're seeing this billionaire class grow and grow. What would be the benefit of them, like, taking this training and changing their mindset and walking away from or deconstructing a system that has benefited them and their families their whole lives?
I'll say this. One of the things that we got to understand primarily about systemic racism is that in reality, in terms of benefits, it's actually a smaller group of folks who benefit, right? Folks who are rich and who are in power.
Yes.
Right? Racism has always been about pocketbooks and power.
Yes.
And so to the extent, too, that the vast majority of white folks might not actually benefit, right? That part of what you do is put people in a position to understand.
Many actually suffer from.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, all you got to do is look at certain states, red states, you know, where you see some of the worst education outcomes, some of the worst healthcare outcomes, criminal justice outcomes.
Go right over to West Virginia.
Exactly. And so part of what you got to get folks to understand is that the system was never designed for everybody to thrive, even across races. And to your point about like institutions, again, we got part of what I've learned over time is that most folks simply don't know what they don't know. Right, so to the point you mentioned about, you know, the name change over at Pitt, most folks had no idea about the history behind Parent Hall, right? And when it was brought to attention, right, people then addressed it accordingly. Yeah, that's the same sort of concept that we think about with SCBT, is that you got to bring.
This boy good, huh?
I'm just saying, it's actually very practical. Right?
Yes.
That when you bring things to people's attention and they're much more informed and aware, they respond accordingly. Right. And so, again, when you think about the illness of racism, the virus of racism, the fact that most people have no idea how it works means most folks are not positioned to address it effectively. Right. You know what I'm saying? Most folks are actually positioned to perpetuate it unknowingly. Yes. Right. And so for me, I always start with the premise that there are more good people in this world than there are knuckleheads. And all those good folks need are resources and information. Right. I can't tell you how many people I encounter who are like, man, I wish I knew what to do against racism. I don't know where to begin. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to read. I don't know what to do. When you give them a practical pathway that helps them understand how the system of racism appears in their environment and how they can grow their capacity, man, people adopt it.
I can kind of see what you're talking about because Jasiri was positioning it like, what do we do about those who benefit from racism? And in your response, I heard like, we pretty much teach the people that don't benefit from racism what it really is, how it truly works, and how to identify it. And if we teach enough of those people, because we outnumber the few that do benefit, we kind of shake up the foundation
big time
and make it hard for it to exist big and time. Stand. You know
big time. I mean, think about it. Because y'all were mentioning this earlier. Why do you think they're attacking education so hard? They understand that the whole key to flipping the entire system, to flipping this entire country, is by educating about what the real history is of this place, but also what are the real opportunities towards the world we want to live in. Realize this stuff is not intuitive, and so we got to learn about it. And so they understand, well, let's make sure they don't learn about it, right? Let's prevent them from putting themselves in a position to actually educate themselves towards a better world. I'll also talk about the fact that folks of color, you know, particularly black and indigenous folks, really need to learn how the systems work, because when you think about racial oppression, you know, on various levels, on the ideological level, institutional level, the interpersonal level, and that sort of individual internalized level, the work for me, I think the most devious form of racism is internalized racism. When people are socialized to believe ideas that they're lesser than, or that they're not capable, or that the society will never work for them. I mean, it puts people in a position to not even try or to embrace or accept lower outcomes, right? And so for me, you know, my framework where I've seen some of the best or some of the most impactful outcomes isn't necessarily just with white folks. Folks of color, particularly black folks, really talk about like, man, this is an eye-opening experience, and it changes my purview about what's possible. right? Because again, if you grow up in a world where you think, man, everything is against me, and in some cases, in many cases they are, but that I'm not capable of affecting change, then you grow up powerless, right? Then you grow up believing that you're not capable, or you grow up in a position where you're now subject to the systems. And so we got to be able to uproot that sort of thinking, that sort of ideology, by introducing new ways to empower people, by helping them understand the systems at play and how they can recreate new structures, new practices, initiatives, et cetera, towards the world they want to live in.